When I think of my childhood, two things come to mind: violence and seeking for a way out. I've seen a lot of violence. Many of my family members are in gangs. My dad himself was a very violent person. So I was always trying to get out of the house, away from my family, away from the community. So I was always this kid seeking for something. And at the age of 13 years old, I found a church. This church was sort of a prosperity kind of church. I mean, I was still young at that time, about 13 years old. And so I loved this church. They loved on me. I grew up basically in that church, eating up and just swallowing the teaching and just reading books and try to preach like the preachers that was in there. And so people easily started to notice me as a preacher, and that's how I started preaching the prosperity. As you know, if you're a preacher, especially when you're preaching the good things that people want to hear, you draw a lot of people towards you. People like you, and you like the attention of people. I remember the one time where I really started questioning whether all of this is right or wrong is when I got involved with a lady. Fell into sin with her. And the next day I just got up and I went to go preach. And when I went to go preach, everything was the same. It was amazing. You know, people was wowed about the preaching, and I wondered, how could a righteous God allow me to sin so grossly and then use me so mightily the next day? That made me wonder whether, am I really preaching the gospel, you know, the real gospel that is the power of God to salvation to them that believe? And that made me then search, just do a Google search, what is the real gospel? And in doing that, I found the teachings of a very prominent Reformed pastor. That transformed my whole life. Everything about me changed. So my brother and I started the church in Bellville South. It's a violent environment, lots of gangsters and drugs. It's where I grew up. And so we started preaching the gospel, and we planted the church that is known now as Reformed Community Church. Because our church is in a very poor area, in a hard place, lots of, like I said, lots of gangster and violence, and our problems is different than other churches' problems. I couldn't relate to anybody. We couldn't find answers to the problems we have. I got the book Church in Hard Places and read about it, and it just spoke to my heart, and that's how I got introduced to Acts 29. So Church in Hard Places became the mentor to our church. And so I got involved with Church in Hard Places, did the Church in Hard Places apprenticeship. We were the first group to do it, and that just helped our ministry, the thinking processes through a lot of counseling and how to take the ministry forward. So our ministry grew not just in depth, but also in number because of Church in Hard Places initiative and involvement in my life personally.
So before attending this church, I was just living my life, giving in to my desires without any conscience of God, without any interest in changing my life. So when I came to RCC, I got saved, and then now my life is transformed and I have a grip on Christ. So.
Ever since I've attended, especially being part of the member of Reformed Community Church, I would say my view of scriptures, as view of the gospel, the view of Christ has, I would say, amplified because of the equipment, or because of how we're equipping each other, how Pastor Mario is helping us and equipping us now to be able now to prepare us to become leaders, future leaders in this church.
Before attending Reformed Community Church, I did not live a gospel-centered life. I didn't see the need for the gospel. So now, I try to live a holy life.
So because of the robust theological training that I got from church in hard places, I'm now able to train other pastors and for them to receive the same kind of robust theological training that I've received, I can now give it to them, and to see them grow in that training to become more healthier pastors, planting more healthier churches.